Now, as you're thinking about how to support your skilled nursing facility with some form of energy resource, you'll end up having to weigh which resource do you use. Now, naturally, the first one that comes to mind would be a diesel generator. Those have been around a long time. They are very reliable. We know how they work, and in fact, that's required for all acute care hospitals in the state of California. That said, they have some serious limitations that we've discussed previously, but what's really important is how they operate going forward with respect to other options. So, as a counterpoint, we could look at a renewable energy microgrid, which would be, for example, solar plus batteries and perhaps a fuel cell. So there's some critical differences between those with respect to performance that are very useful for the owner-operator of a skilled nursing facility to understand. Now, diesel generator has the advantages of reliability, but it sits there as basically a dead asset, not performing for your facility in any real fashion until and unless you turn it on. So you really take on all the capital expense, all the operational expense, all the cost of fuel and storage, and all of the related environmental problems, but you obtain very little economic benefit from that at all. Now, in contrast, if you put solar energy generation, a fuel cell generation system, and batteries in place, you now have systems that are generating energy on a daily basis, optimizing its application and usage, cutting your costs on a regular basis. So these are not only meeting the standards required by this new health and safety law and getting you to compliance, but they actually are driving down costs. Now, this gets even better. It's not just that those perform better because they're always on and always working for you, but in fact, because of new incentives coming from the federal government, you now get paid to put those in place. Well, how does that work? Well, the technologies I talked about, the solar, the fuel cell, the batteries, are now eligible for very large tax credits, sometimes exceeding 50%, which is to say that if you're a taxable entity, you can get 50% of your investment back just in tax credits, or if you're non-taxable, then you can request and receive a direct payment from the IRS equal to the amount that you would otherwise take as a tax credit. So in other words, if you have a 50% tax credit, one way or another, half of that cost is already cut off, tax credits coming from the IRA. Again, it doesn't stop there. You get accelerated depreciation. Well, you can't depreciate that diesel generator in a short time, but you can take these renewable resources and you can do accelerated depreciation over 5 years. So the tax value is extraordinary. Thirdly, or lastly rather, there are substantial state benefits and low interest loans that are attached to the renewable systems that make them far less expensive to operate and to acquire, and which in the end mean that you end up in the black with the renewable system, whereas essentially you're in the red the entire time you own the diesel generator. So again, while the diesel generator has some performance characteristics that seem advantageous and at first blush might seem like the place to go as the backup power for a skilled nursing facility based upon the new legal requirements in California, at Faraday Microgrids, we'd like to tell you that, in fact, if you take a deeper dive into what these technologies can do in the renewable space and what Faraday Microgrids in particular can do for you, we would argue that that's a far more sustainable and economically valuable approach to supporting your facility and getting the best value you can in all domains.